What if a split second of driving would destroy everything? It was supposed to be just another day on the I-15 in Salt Lake. Chaotic, but ordinary. A college-bound driver cruising down a well-known stretch of road, maybe thinking about class, her mom's new existence, or just the next off-ramp. But within the blink of an eye, that normal drive turned much more sinister. And today, months afterward, the ripple effects have come back through the guise of a lawsuit. Today, we're entering the quiet tempest around Sister Wives cast member Christine Brown's daughter, Ysabel. A young lady who, like so many of us in the past, is merely trying to get life figured out. But life, as we know, tends to throw you its toughest challenges when you're not exactly expecting them, especially when you're not exactly ready for them. A backover accident, a chain reaction of 4 vehicles, and a legal complaint that paints a picture of pain, responsibility, and unanswered questions. What really transpired on the highway that day? Why did the lawsuit take more than 2 years to materialize? And how is this young woman, propelled into the public eye on reaching adulthood, handling the weight of such a serious accusation? If you've ever been in a fender bender or worried that your insurance company wouldn't cover it, you'll feel the tension here. Maybe you're reminded of those early days when you or your kids were still figuring out the ways of adulthood, doing your best, but learning the hard way. But this is more than a crash report. It's about how quickly life can go from mundane to complicated. It's about systems of law, family histories, and the unwritten weight that young adults carry when the world is watching. It's about comprehension, both for the one who claims harm and for the one who gets blamed. So sit with me and look at what we do know, stitch together what likely happened, and observe how this moment falls into place in the bigger story of a mundane young woman's coming of age in the shadow of reality TV fame. We'll ponder, we'll speculate cautiously, and most of all, we'll talk like old friends about the kinds of life detours none of us can ever prepare for. Let's get into it. Hi everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today we have another update from the world of Sister Wives. This one concerns Christine Brown's second youngest daughter, Ysabel, and it's not so much the kind of update you'd want to hear. Ysabel seems to be sued for a car accident that took place in Utah, presumably in 2023. As far as we know, the accident happened near Midvale City on the I-15 freeway, which is one of the state's busiest roads, at what seems to have been rush hour. And it was no fender bender. It involved 4 cars. Let us return to March 30th, 2023. That is when there was a traffic court case brought in Midvale, which lies right in the Salt Lake City area. Ysabel had received a ticket for tailgating, the report said. Now, this kind of ticket usually follows a rear-end collision, something that tends to happen when one fails to leave enough space and traffic suddenly is slowed down. It can lead to accidents or at least a frightfully expensive repair bill. The woman who is suing Ysabel indicates that she was operating the first of a string of cars on the day in question. She details some key facts in her court action. She alleges that Ysabel held a valid driver's license, had completed a driver's ed course, and should have been aware of the general rules of the road regarding safety. It was here, the lawsuit states, that the accident happened, just steps south of Winchester Street in Midvale, near the Utah region known as the Murray area. Now, for those reading about the Brown family's movements, the neighborhood isn't too far from where Christine and David were living while they were married. It happened, in fact, about this same time period, March or April, when Christine and David had newly moved into their new home in Lehi. Now, this is what the accident allegedly occurred as follows. The plaintiff alleges she was driving her gray Subaru Outback in the left lane on I-15. Following her, the complaint alleges, was a vehicle driven by one Matthias Gonado. Behind him, a third vehicle was driven by Jadat Mariah. Ysabel, the complaint alleges, was a Honda HR-V directly behind that third vehicle. Traffic began to slow down. Ahead of them, the woman tapped her brakes and braked to a full stop. Matthias and Jadat braked safely, one after the other, but Ysabel, so it said, didn't brake in time. She allegedly rear-ended Jadat's car. The collision set off a chain reaction. Jadat's car crashed into Matthias's, which collided with the Subaru Outback at the front of the line. The plaintiff says she was injured in this cause and effect and blames Ysabel's negligence for the whole incident. The complaint is a checklist of a few things: failure to slow down, failure to pay proper attention, and failure to drive her automobile safely on the conditions of the road. Due to the accident, the woman suing Ysabel claims that she was injured, some of which, she says, are permanent. Now, let's talk about how car accident claims work in Utah, because it is a bit different than in a couple of other states. Utah has what's known as a no-fault system. So if you're in a car accident, your own car insurance is meant to cover your medical bills, regardless of fault. But Utah also has a modified comparative negligence statute. The rule in this standard is that if you're below 51% responsible for the accident, you have the right to sue the other motorist for damages, such as medical bills and costs, pain and suffering, and your car's damage. Provided the other driver was more responsible for the accident than you may have a claim. In this situation, it seems like the woman would have had to try all the usual channels of relief first. That would be filing a claim with her own insurance provider and then with Ysabel's insurer. If the insurer wouldn't pay, or paid only a fraction of the bill, say because of policy limits or being underinsured, then the second line of defense would be to sue. And that could be the reason why this lawsuit is nearing a year since the accident actually took place. In the lawsuit, the plaintiff once more contends that Ysabel, now dubbed the defendant, was negligent in several significant respects. Ysabel, according to the claim, did not slow down, was not keeping a proper lookout, was not following traffic safety rules for conditions, and lost control of her vehicle. The complaint goes on to allege that Ysabel's action was the proximate and legal cause of the accident and of the plaintiff's injuries. She claims she's still recovering from them and may continue to suffer from them in the future. In addition to all that, the plaintiff asserts she's incurred over $3,000 in medical bills, and she's prepared to provide that documentation at trial. But it's not always about the dollars. The woman asserts this wreck put her at a great deal of pain, both physical and emotional. She maintains it affected her daily existence, her ability to perform chores, engage in hobbies, and even just get about on a regular basis. She's further alleging that she's incurred permanent physical injury and disability. So, what is she asking the court for? A lot, it seems. She is asking for compensation for past, present, and future medical expenses. Any out-of-pocket costs, including any future treatment as may be required, pain and suffering, physical and emotional, loss of life's enjoyment, any permanent damages sustained as a result of the accident, and interest on any damages recovered, both pre- and post-judgment. She's also seeking a trial by jury and paid the statutory fees to get the process underway. This lawsuit was actually brought on June 23rd in Salt Lake County, Utah. And to understand the legal hurdle here, Utah requires, in filing this type of personal injury case, that the injured individual can prove they've incurred at least $3,000 in medical expenses. They also must prove there were measurable physical injuries and that there was negligence involved. Now, naturally enough, the court records don't tell us everything that transpired at the accident itself, But I went through some research to try to figure out when this might have happened, based on what's on the record. And now, if you're as familiar with that stretch of I-15 in Salt Lake as I am, then you know that it's got its share of wrecks. It's a busy, crowded spot. And because of either traffic, bad weather, winter especially, or just bad luck, wrecks here occur frequently. Some of them are horribly fatal. Luckily, in this case, it doesn't seem anyone died. As far as we know, Ysabel was not hurt, but the woman suing her did get hurt. Let's get real. Accidents like this, especially at rush hour, don't happen very often. Anyone who has ever driven on a crowded freeway knows exactly how quickly things change. 1 minute you're cruising along, and the next, traffic stops dead in their tracks. If you're not paying attention for even a second, or just can't brake in time, you're likely to rear-end someone. It's a heart-stopping and nerve-wracking experience, and it seems that's what happened here. The lead vehicle, the suit alleges, came to a standstill. So did the rest that followed. But then Ysabel, driving the fourth car behind, was unable to stop and crashed into the third car, starting that awful chain reaction. And like most of us, you can perhaps visualize it all too well. That moment of fear when you realize you'll be unable to stop on time. This type of crash is frightening and worrisome. Indeed, just the other day, there was another terrible wreck on the same stretch of highway where a vehicle got wedged underneath a semi-truck. In April last year, there was even a 7-car pileup at the same spot. Clearly, this segment of I-15 suffers more than its share of bad luck. And the thing is, accidents can happen to anybody. Sometimes we're at fault, sometimes we're not. That's just part of life behind the wheel. What makes this situation especially tough is thinking about where Ysabel was in her life when all of this likely happened. She had a lot on her plate. Her mom, Christine, had just moved in with her new beau, David. Ysabel herself was leaving for college. And, as any college-bound young adult, she was adjusting to all manner of new responsibilities and adaptations. It's easy to imagine she had plenty on her plate. And nothing in this account makes her appear irresponsible. Truly, it seems she acted properly. She stayed on the scene, which is why she was cited in the first place. That tells us she didn't try to leave the scene or avoid responsibility. What does raise some eyebrows, however, is the timing. The accident was said to have happened in early 2023, and yet this suit wasn't filed until more than 2 years later. That's a significant gap, and sure, there can be legitimate legal reasons for that, like insurance settlement negotiations. But it does leave you wondering. That also comes to mind about something that occurred to Ysabel's brother, Peyton, back in 2018. He was also in a rear-end crash too, not on the freeway, but on another busy road. In that case, their dad, Kody, got sued too because the car involved had his name on it. There was also an insurance issue in that accident. Perhaps underinsurance or even no insurance at all. Sooner or later, the case between Peyton and Kody did go to arbitration, which is a choice instead of being in a normal courtroom setting. The women presented their medical charges, and the arbitrator reviewed everything. Eventually, judgment was rendered against Peyton and Kody for over $30,000. But now, with Ysabel's case, we don't really know much about her insurance situation yet. The lawsuit doesn't say, and the complaint itself is fairly vague. It doesn't give the date of the accident or include a copy of the police report. That's kind of odd because it's generally a good practice and required to do those things when you file a case. The plaintiff does say she has the evidence to back up her medical costs and injuries, so we'll likely learn more if this goes to trial. But still, it's unfortunate all around. Having to experience a lawsuit, especially at that age, never feels good. And I do truly feel sorry for Ysabel. I just hope it's not the kind of case like with Ysabel's brother Peyton, where there was a problem involving insurance coverage. That's always the tough part of these types of cases. Now and then, young drivers, or even parents, opt for bare liability as a cost-cutting measure. But here's where it becomes the issue. If you have only liability and no collision coverage, your insurance is going to pay for your own medical bill, just not for the other driver's car or injuries. And if your own car is a total loss, well, without collision coverage, forget about it too. I'll confess, I did the same when I was that age. I didn't even carry collision on my car either. My family had decided that it wasn't worth the extra cost on an older vehicle. It's the kind of choice that makes sense at the time, but it really does come back to get you if something actually does happen. So, a gentle reminder to all you people out there, if you're driving, and more importantly, if you've got children or grandchildren who are learning to drive, it's worth double-checking that you've got the right cover. Having adequate insurance can make all the difference when life throws you a curveball like this. Now, I'm not saying Ysabel isn't adequately insured yet, but accidents still happen, no matter how cautious we try to be. So always keep your back covered out there, leave plenty of space between your car and the one ahead of you, and don't take your eyes off the road, especially in heavy traffic areas like I-15. In the end, I sincerely hope Ysabel will not be put through a long, protracted trial, and that the case will be settled justly and peacefully. And for the woman who is suing, if, in fact, her injuries were as severe as they sound, I hope she can physically and financially recover. No one wants to be in that kind of pain or have to pay medical bills and missed work along with everything else. So what do you guys think about all of this? Has anyone or someone you know ever had something like this happen to them? Let me know in the comments down below. I love hearing from you. And if you enjoyed this video or found it useful, make sure to give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe and press that notification bell so you never miss an update. Thanks ever so much for taking time today. Take it easy, and I'll catch you next time. Bye for now.